Oh, where is he?
Here he is.
Look who's here.
It's about time. Fucking-
Sorry, the
Fuck.
Wi-Fi just sucks. I'm having all kinds of problems.
Where are
Yeah,
you? Where
tell me
are you?
about it.
Mexico?
What's that?
Are you Mexico? What's the Wi-Fi no good in LA?
Well, I'm at the Donkey Show in TJ.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's sort of a remote office for Ron. They got a little setup there. Good view.
Is that the official team start for the donkey handlers? Get in, loser.
Exactly.
He didn't
That's
say where he was getting in.
Yeah. Yeah, get in where you can. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of the motto of the Donkey Show, I think.
Exactly.
That's a terrible start to a podcast.
You already
by
started
the
We're
game,
doing a podcast. Yeah, we already started recording because you finally decided. I mean, I guess I'll show up. It's not a real punk show, Ron.
guys can
You
handle
can't
that
just
one.
do whatever you want.
And you're not exactly the talent, even though you're a doctor now. Because Ben and we could do this without you.
It's good because I'm fucking tired today, so I'm gonna go take a
Oh,
guys can handle this.
gotta get a nap in before I go trick or
I gotta
treat.
get my nappy in. Otherwise I'm gonna start crying.
Yep, crying and then begging for candy.
Yeah,
It's Halloween, by the way.
It is
Well,
Halloween.
it's not Halloween in Australia because it's November 1st there.
It's All Saints Day over there, fuckers.
Sort of Day of the Dead theme going on with Dave's shirt too. We'll get there, Dave.
All right,
More
we'll get
importantly, what is this? This is episode 19.
there. 18, man. What are you?
No, I don't think that's right.
What? No.
Is it? Hold on. I'm going to check the tape.
Fucking hell.
God
It's
damn.
amateur hour here. People don't even turn up on time.
It's 18. It's
Don't even know what episode it is.
Or wait, no,
Is
it
it
isn't.
18?
See to our
Fucking-
see our 11 listeners.
don't
See the
know.
sort of stuff
No,
that I
it's
have to deal with.
No, it's 8. Look, it's 18. It's 18.
It's 18.
It's 18.
It was always going to be 18.
Yeah. It's illegal.
Oh God.
It doesn't if it was 17, it's
Yeah.
we've already done it.
And
We're fine with it.
if you just
That was Colette. So
Yeah.
Colette was here for 17. So we classed the place up a lot. And with
Now let's bring it
apologies,
back
here we
down
are.
to
but
our
if
normal.
you,
At 18.
Yep, and Ben, if you cared a little bit more about the podcast, you'd know what number episode it was.
Well, or I paid more attention, or a combination of the two. So,
Lost
Ron, since you've just shown up,
yeah, I just
ready
woke up.
as ever. What? Well, who's behind you?
This is an old school Bad Religion picture that I found.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's very pixelated, so I see you put as much effort into that as you did showing up to the.
Is it
podcast.
pixelated? I didn't even look.
No,
at
I mean it looks shitty, but that's fine.
It
Makes
looks
you look
shitty.
better. You got any new tattoos to make up for it, or?
No, I have nothing, nothing of interest or consequence.
I think we knew the answer. Dave's full tilt boogie, NOFX, and I couldn't be happier.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of back catalog to make your way through, but yeah, still just like last episode, still leaning in heavily. Yep. There's a lot to love about the career that those guys had.
Yeah. I got DOA behind me there. Well, that's an old
Okay.
picture. I think they played. Did they? Well, if they played, we missed them at the Pumpkin Drublick.
I don't think they did they?
I don't know.
I think they played
at
just,
some of them.
maybe just before Bad Cop, where you guys were faffing around.
Or when we were in the car with Ron.
Yep.
Just
A lot of bands-
moseying. Just
a lot of bands
moseying
played while we were in
through.
the car with Ron.
Ron took us to a Trump rally. It was awesome.
Through the Trump parade.
Oh shit. Okay. So look, here's the thing. We always talk about not planning ahead. We have legitimately not even spoken to one another about what a topic is today. So
Didn't you
that's
say,
good.
Dave, you wanted to do the war on errorism or something?
Yeah, so
Oh.
just so like, given that you guys can't even fucking answer correctly what number episode it was,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I guess one of the things we haven't talked about in any episode specifically, I guess, is this idea of human error. And like all you like it's clearly obviously the cause of 96% of all accidents.
Yeah. So how do we
Like,
get rid of it?
like it doesn't like you just something happens, right? You listen to the news in Fox News in the evening, and it's like early indications point to pilot error or human error. So given that it's like 95% of everything that matters in safety, I figured that we'll start losing listeners if we don't address it, right?
You listen to Fox News in the evening? Is that
Well, I'm trying to be sensitive of the fact that you've only got 4 days left before complete anarchy in the US.
Before Civil War. Yeah.
yeah. We'll be fine. But
I've already been denied a visa once to Australia, so I'm stuck.
yeah,
Ron might be able to get in, you
I,
know.
I feel like I feel like I have a pretty solid case for fleeing the country.
Yeah. Well, you might make it sooner to the
So can we do
podcast
it?
if you.
Can we do it, boys? Can we talk?
Yeah, no, I
Human
think
error?
Let's
look,
let's get
I
error.
think we can.
So
And War on Errorism is a really good title
I
because
love it.
it's the NoFX album.
13 Stitches. Good song. Just quietly.
what what's human error?
A human
Well, I
that
think
errors.
error like a really maybe oversimple definition of error is sort of that gap between intent and outcome.
Mm.
I mean, that's probably oversimplified, but as like a working definition, you go, well, I meant this to happen, it didn't. This is the outcome. I mean that sort of encompasses error in part. All right, now tell me where I fucked up, because that's usually how this goes.
I think intent. It could be a gap in intent to outcome. It could be a gap in knowledge
That's what I
to.
said.
It
Yeah.
could be. Yeah, no. I said, and you said it was part of it, so you didn't claim full credit.
I don't know. I mean,
Um,
I what I heard was you agreeing 100% with me, and I couldn't be
Just not
happier.
used to that.
but it could be also.
Dude.
It could also be a gap in like the knowledge or the assessment of the situation. So even if I don't even have it, the intent. Well, I guess I've got an intent not to have an accident, right? So that could be the gap. But yeah, maybe a gap in situation assessment or knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, so, but like, I guess here's the squishy part
Oh
with the
boy.
definition and why people like. I mean, I agree. Like, probably it's best just to keep it simple. But I mean, like, if we go like, okay, intent between or a gap between intent and outcome, like, yeah, I intend to go to the grocery store, but then some, I don't know, driver
Trump
completely
rally.
out of my control. Yeah,
Rally
yeah, some Trump rally runs into me.
where Ron naturally gravitates.
All of a sudden, I'm the vice president now, and and they're trying to hang me in effigy.
I'm,
And
Sure.
I'm standing on a stage in Philadelphia next to Elon, and I don't know what's
yeah,
happening.
I don't know what's going on. I'm in a Cybertruck. It's
Wow.
Car.
is that like was that an
Slippery
error?
slope.
Like and whose
Well,
error was that?
I think fuck
I
up and
mean,
error might be different things.
well, so if you I think if you go back to, some of Jim Reason's early work, he was really wrestling with that too, right? Like he was talking about, error is sort of the big picture, but maybe there's different flavors of it. Is it a slip or a lapse or a mistake or these sorts of things he was talking about. Oh boy. And so I think Ron, that gets to kind of to your point of, can we subdivide error a little bit if we want to?
I think the thing too is it's just squishy, right? Like because because one of the
His internet is doing as well as he is.
is the internet not working?
Seems okay
Yeah,
for me.
that's great.
Maybe it's your internet.
Maybe it's you.
It
Yeah,
might be
maybe
me.
it's you. I'm
Maybe
just
it's
saying,
you.
maybe it's you. Maybe you haven't thought about you for a minute, you fucking dick.
Hold on.
um,
I'm going to ear goggles.
heyo.
I'm going full manual.
You know, and I guess like one of the challenges is the gap between intent and outcome, and I think this is one of the, you know, you talk about different people who talk about error. It's Jim Reason and, you know, Eric Hollnagel, kind of in that same time frame.
Sid Decker. I don't know him. You guys know him. But,
Those yahoos,
Tier two.
because
Tier one.
they
Tier
they
one.
would criticize some of that, and they say that one of the problems with a lot of conceptions of human error is it focuses on the individual when the gap between intent and outcome could be not. I mean, it could be bigger than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think. Well, but I think error maybe gets mixed up in culpability, and maybe that's where a lot of trouble comes up. Is like error should be value neutral, right? It's just sort of a description of a thing, but I don't know that it's really ever presented that way.
Yeah.
And
It's
I think
interesting.
that's a big part of that.
It's interesting when you
Squishy.
talk about like research theory, like actual, like when the, you know, researchers, they talk about error and bias. Error is just like random variance that could be just in your sample. Like it's not
Yeah.
like you didn't fuck up. It's just
Listen
like,
to this PhD guy talking
I
about.
know.
Yeah.
Wow, this guy
Jesus.
knows what he's talking
That's
about.
big time.
Yeah.
He's going back and forward between. He can just do the statistics thing, and then he can use really technical terms like squishy. You know.
But you know what I mean? Like that, I think, and I always find that interesting is because it's very different than how we think about it. Because you're right. Like a lot of times when we talk about error, we're trying to like blame whoever made that error. Whereas from a research perspective, error is actually just randomness in life or in the, you know, situation or environment or whatever you're trying to study.
And some of that early work, I think, in like you mentioned Jim Reason's work, and you know, like you mentioned like slips of action, Ben, like you were talking about slips, like it was just, and then even in the early resilience engineering work, and you know, David and Richard, both tier ones, I guess. This idea about, you know, they zigged when they should have zagged type thing. And so, you know, error, we got to also think about the temporal sort of nature of error, right? In the moment, it doesn't always look and feel like error, or people obviously, you know, like if it's contrary to the intent, then you wouldn't do it, right? So, you know, a lot of the label of error is also applied post hoc, sort of like counterfactually. Oh, you fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
If only they hadn't done, and that's that counterfactual piece, right? You can always pick that stuff up.
He made an error. He didn't turn the MCAS system off, or he did turn the MCAS system off when it was fucking with the plane, you know, attitude. So
it's funny you bring up aviation, and I think that's one of those ones that internationally, ICAO, which is the International Aviation Organization,
civil, I think,
covers
is in there as well.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to read the name out so much as just say, look, the thing is, this applies to all the member states around the world. So all the civil aviation authorities out there that are member states all kind of come under this, but they all talk about that sort of statistically error, simple statistics. But Dave, you said 96% of all things going wrong or something. And they still say, I think the FAA, which is in this country, talks about 70 to 80% of all accidents are due to human error. And you go, wait, what? Like
Healthcare does the same, right?
There's the same
with
thing.
patient safety.
Absolutely. Yep.
One of the things that's so frustrating to me about those, I don't know, maybe this is where you're going, is like those numbers, and I don't mean this that they're intentionally doing it, but like those numbers are fucking made up.
They're made up.
Well, they're made up in a lot of ways through other things that make us feel good, right? So aviation, and actually healthcare uses HVACs a little bit too, but these like weird classification systems. So I can, in hindsight, using those counterfactuals, using things that I know that people didn't know then, start binning types of errors, which is fucking, I mean,
Yeah.
now I'm gonna get a letter, but it's fucking weird at best and kind of stupid in a lot of situations, right? Because it's not helpful, but it lets me go back and then go, okay, I sort of feel good because there's 40% of these were in this code or type of thing. And you look and in healthcare, right? Everything you do is sort of human based or human designed or human executed. And so it's either
Well,
100% or it's nothing at all. I guess is sort of the
I
human
agree with
error
that.
exists all the time in everything that we do. Period. End.
There's a really interesting line of research in like disaster, disaster response, natural disasters, and the argument that some researchers make is there's no such thing as a natural disaster because
Yeah.
the effects of the disaster are human made and human, like what we call a disaster is from our perspective, right? Like, a hurricane's just a fucking hurricane. Like if a hurricane just goes through, a forest and nobody's around, is that a disaster?
Did it actually really happen? If the tree falls over and no one's there
Sure.
to hear it, did it
Exactly.
make a
I
sound?
will say though, for our listeners that are hurricanes, I mean, they really feel heard by Ron right now.
Yeah, right
They're
now.
like, see, I told you, I'm not an asshole, man.
Anyone
I'm
in
just a
anyone in
hurricane.
Florida or Georgia or the Carolinas or anyone there,
Yeah.
Ron's going to come and
Crying.
hand you out, some
They're
money.
fucking crying.
What's
But
your
no, like
what's your fucking problem? It's just a hurricane. Cool, Ron.
You built your house there.
He
exactly.
showed up late. Showed up late. Told everybody how stupid they were.
But like, I mean, all joking aside, like what you just said, Dave, about you built your house there,
Oh boy.
this isn't blaming them. This
Here we
is
go.
just to say that the choices we make, like that helps construct the disaster, right? So to me, like Ben, back to your point, like even stuff that we say are so-called acts of God, like there's always a human contribution to it. Like, are we gonna?
Yeah.
It's either 100% or it's nothing. Like the numbers are made up in between.
All right, so politics,
Sort of a
religion, like let's offend everyone.
Fuck yeah.
no, but I think all those things are woven into it, right?
Yeah.
Because it is something we name in hindsight, often just to feel like we have closure. I
And I
think
think
if nothing else, right?
the language point, like the whole idea about the language matters and language, carries meaning and emotion because you're like error is a fairly value laden word, right? It's pretty judgmental in that. And you think about 96% of all accidents are caused by human error. You can turn that around and say 100% of all accidents are caused by organizations not setting up work to be successful in all situations. Right? Like,
100% accidents are caused by your mom.
Jesus, I was trying to say something semi-useful, and when your mom wears a Malcolm X jacket, helicopters try and land on her back.
Oh, it's going great. It's going. The wheels are off.
Okay, so what were you saying that was useful? I'm just sorry. I'm just
He
not
didn't.
used to
I don't
that,
think
so
he
I
made
missed
it there. It's fine. 100%. Hold on. I'll see if I can say it, Dave, and maybe he won't give me shit, but
It will.
100% of failures are due to organizations not setting systems up for 100% success. I don't know.
Close.
Something
Close.
like, I mean, it was sort of a rambling, incoherent
It's like a
response.
C-
Really,
I liked what I said.
yeah, well, C's get degrees,
But
especially
like,
if you're a PhD program for 13 and a half years or not that, whatever. I mean, however long it was.
but yeah, for fucking it. But then like you could even go a step back and say, okay, 100% of accidents are due to a failure of the regulatory policy to force organizations to create perfect systems, or you know what I mean? Like you could go in any direction you want and make the same claim, and it's perfectly defensible.
And
Yeah.
it's hard to argue without sounding like an asshole. Like
Yeah.
a lot of these things, right? Like, you can't say, well, human error is not important. You sound dumb. I think if I
Or
sat in
dumb.
front of in front of Congress, right? And we've talked about a very famous door manufacturer here in the US, but anybody shows up in front of Congress, they're getting questioned, and they go, "Well, listen, we need to talk about it. We need to reduce human error here." And you go, "Well, I mean, human error doesn't really matter."
Yeah.
So then what?
Yeah,
It doesn't fucking
free
exist.
free doors for everyone. We'll just throw them from the sky.
Yeah. Sort of a career limiting move though, and at some point there's kind of a social need or a political need for closure, and I think that's why it's so convenient. It's like shouting when we talked about culture, right? Ah, it's all about our culture, and then just moving on. So
Mm,
what's the more helpful thing, I guess, instead of saying, well, this is due to human error, which we've established is a bad thing to say.
mm.
So, so what do we want to talk
Yeah,
about
what
with
do
the,
we-
our six listeners, now that Ron offended everybody,
Yeah.
um,
Going back.
might want to know. They go, okay, cool, not fucking helpful, Ron.
Well, so to
What should
me,
I do?
to me,
Eh,
most of the pretty most probably all the things that we talk about when we talk about error, depending on where you drew that line, come back to strategies, adaptations, heuristics, whatever we want to label it, that people use in order to be successful in a messy world, right? Like in a complex, messy world. And so, you know, I think to me, like a more interesting, useful conversation when you want to talk about error is, I mean, if you can even use the term error if you want to, I'm not necessarily precious to that, but like if you think of it that it lives inside the human being, I don't find that a very helpful framing. I
that's
think
a lot like the donkey show we started with.
exactly.
Lives it
Just
lives
like
in
the donkey show is a interaction between various components within
cross boundary.
donkey show emerges from a
Oh,
complex interaction
yeah, it
of
does.
various
Well,
components.
I think
Error emerges
Dave's
from
gonna
a
save us from this one.
interaction between, I mean, from a cognitive systems engineering perspective, it's an
There it
interaction
is.
here we go.
between the person, the environment, and the tool.
I mean, it's all joint activity, right?
I mean, it's not.
I think what you're trying to say in a sort of clumsy roundabout kind of way
Go fuck yourself.
is this so um but I mean Ben mentioned Sid before, like
Yeah, see, he seems tier 1, 2.
yeah,
Probably
it's
tier
all right.
1.
He's the field guide to understanding human error kind of investigations, and even like um Ron, when are you doing your session with the Behind Human Error OSU series? That's like
Oh,
mid-December.
yeah. No, I'm gonna. Yeah,
Yeah, we're turning up to
I'm
that
doing
one.
technology.
We're definitely turning up to that one. Um,
Who's we? I don't get invited to those.
oh shit! And you have to
You
actually.
got the link. You got the fucking link. Why are you crying all the time?
What link? I don't have a link.
I sent you the link.
Right.
No.
Someone
No.
erred. No, but this idea that
Yeah.
just
Error.
what you were saying, Ron, about the most interesting part of any unexpected situation is to like just get inside, right? Sid would have said get in the tunnel, like just immerse yourself in that situation, in the work, in how people made sense of what was going on, and that kind of like observability piece. So I think, error as a label, if it leads to trying to just, try to correct human behavior, then it's not helpful. If we use it as a label for something that we didn't expect to happen, and then use that to trigger a whole bunch of discovery activity, then, it's a good stepping off point for learning about, normal work.
So is it fair to say, sort of like our conversation about culture, it's not a bad word by itself, it's just never a stopping point. Like, don't be fucking lazy.
Yeah.
You
There
could
you
say
go.
error, but then there's sort of an and after
Yeah.
that, and now we've
It's
got
like,
Well,
norms.
yeah, I think people use like when they talk about error in organizations, they usually end up with, okay, the problem exists inside that human who made that error, and they either need to try harder, care more,
Sure.
know more, so we send them to retraining or some bullshit.
You just punish them with
and I think
training.
that, yeah, I think that's the,
Yes.
I sort of say sometimes, well, I try to say to people and say to myself as well, like, replace extreme judgment with extreme curiosity. It's like, why the fuck did that crane fall over? I'm sure
Like,
that
of course,
operator didn't want to have
He's
that
like
bad.
Jocko.
Or what?
Jocko Willink. You know that guy? What is that? Extreme ownership. You're getting a letter, my friend.
Oh, really?
oh,
Is that a
Talks about
thing?
extreme ownership. Oh, yeah. And now you're getting extreme curiosity. I think it sounds pretty
getting
close.
extreme sued, bitch.
Extreme lawsuit.
I spell mine with, I don't actually say extreme. I just use like a big X, like X Games
X.
sort of thing.
Yes.
It looks
Okay.
heaps cooler on the merch.
Sponsored by Monster Energy Drink.
Just like
um,
Pennywise.
Fucking incredible.
uh,
You guys rolled out with their sponsors.
what were you saying? You started saying something smart, I think.
No,
Oh,
no, no, just that. But I think that idea that Ben sort of mentioned culture, right? And again, it's what action and conversation does it inspire in the organization? And in my example, the crane was like if it's fine to say, oh, that crane fell over because the operator did made a mistake, but that's different to going, oh fuck, that's interesting. Like a crane fell over. Like I'm sure no one wanted that to happen. That's a bad day.
right.
What the hell is going on there? In our from a systems perspective, and that's cool. You can call it error if it triggers a bunch of cool shit to happen. Don't call it error if it just triggers you to go, fuck off. We'll get a new operator. Windows seat
Yeah,
or
we
aisle
talk
seat.
about things, right, like error likely or error traps. And I think those things are useful in pushing that idea forward, right? That idea of curiosity that error doesn't live in the person so much as they're in a situation where error is more likely.
Yeah,
It's
error
not that
traps.
I mean, they might be an asshole, but it's not that they're an asshole that's the problem.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think that is why those like 95% of accidents are human error and that stuff is to me so frustrating because often people use that to say, well, we need to be spending most of our time on the behavior or on the error, not on the system or not on the conditions. It creates this like sense of dichotomy when that's a
Mm.
complete, that's just not helpful, right? Like that again, it's assuming that the error is inside those individuals, not that interaction between the individual and their environment.
Yeah, just stop hiring dumb people,
I
Ron.
mean,
This
that's
problem
definitely.
will solve itself, you know.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I mean, it's helpful, Ben, that you've taking yourself out of the operational labor market because
exactly. Number one, to make them a safety person.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Give him a safety job. Well, that's what happens, right? It's the
Yeah.
guy who's
Oh,
missing a leg because he ran over himself with a forklift. That well, you're going to be the new rehab guy or the new
Yeah.
yeah.
The
the new
safety by
safety officer.
accident model,
Yeah.
right? But like it's interesting this idea of air trap because what popped in my head when you talked about it is the air trap is sort of like a breakdown in that like okay, we have this situation that can induce an error in certain individuals in certain moments and whatever. It's almost like in some ways the opposite of like affordance in a design context, right? An affordance is something with the tool that you're using that you can do, but you have to have a connection between the individual and that tool in order for it to work, right? So like
Are we
the
still
phone.
talking about the donkey show?
Exactly. I mean, I
Oh,
could talk about
I was
affordance
trying
in the
so hard to
donkey
just
show,
let
but
it go. And
I'm not sure we want to go that route.
I think you
Anyway,
just did.
proceed.
But like,
Individual and tool. Yep.
so
Connection.
so when a donkey and a never mind. Um, No, but your phone affords making calls because A, it has the ability, physical ability to, but you also know it and you know how to use it as such, right? So there's got to be this sort of connection between the person and the tool and the situation in order for it to work. And I think in the same way, like you could say, like the error traps are often a breakdown in that process. And to me, I think that's interesting and useful because if we can think about it as how do I make sure that there's a balance between the situation, the person, and that whatever's going on, then you not only eliminate error, you facilitate success.
And it also gives, I guess, talking about that connection also gives you an opportunity to just launch into a joint activity type conversation and tell everyone about your PhD. you can kind of, but I think interesting. So error traps. One of the interesting.
If you want to, Ron.
Yeah,
any opportunity.
If you want to. No, one of the interesting things I think there is I'm starting to hear people talk more and more about error traps. It's sort of worked its way back into the language about understanding normal work. And one of the things that I'm sort of not sure about is when you start talking about error traps, you start talking about the error traps that we know about. And I'm not sure that they're the big concerning error traps. It's like, oh, if you're at a pre-start meeting and you're talking, oh, what are all the error traps today, or the things that could go wrong, or the mistakes that someone could make? Like they're things that people are already going to be paying attention to because they're like the known knowns about things that can happen. I think the error traps are that, maybe are harder to get at. Well, they're obviously hard to get at, but are the ones that we actually don't know are error traps.
The unknown unknowns.
Yeah.
Known unknowns.
I think
we know there could be error traps. We don't know what they are, or the unknown knowns. I never get those two right. Unknown knowns. Unknown knowns. Known unknowns. Unknown knowns. I don't know. There's 4 quadrants in that fucking
we
model.
broke him. Yeah, we broke him, and now he's glitching out here.
No.
Listen, you don't know it. You wish you knew it, but you don't
no.
even know where to look sometimes.
One's about
we'll
like we know we could have accidents, but we don't know how they're going to occur. And one's about we don't know that we can have accidents. I don't know.
And we also don't know how they can occur.
That's fair.
Fuck
don't
all.
Don't fucking put things in 4 quadrants, right? Like just
it's too hard for Dave. It's brain break.
Dave needs 2.
The rule is the rule of threes. The rule of threes, right? Just in a linear sort of like A, B, C helps me. Thank you very much. Just
there's a D, fuck it.
They're 4 quadrant fucking error trap. There you go.
Dave's got the 7 C's or 6 C's.
Yeah, well, how many?
Weren't you working that up
last time?
I think 5. Well, yeah, I forgot where I wrote that shit down. So
I think it's sort of catchy to talk about the 7 C's, though.
I know.
Got kind of a pirate vibe.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I bet you do.
There you go. 7 C's. I didn't even get that. That's with an S.
Yeah.
Funny that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, there's already a 5S program is taken, right? So
yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, speaking, so just to get things back slightly more. So another reason for this picture, managed to chase down, boys. See, look, I'm putting in. See, check it. Look at it. If you're watching on, there we go. The new Dan Electro bass. I got the guys at Ecotone Guitars to chase me one down. I'm on to lesson 3. Just if you're following along at home. So we didn't tell our listeners that we said at the first field trip that next field trip, even if we're not invited to be part of the lineup, we're just going to bring our shit and just play.
Yes.
For everyone queued out front.
I don't think we have to bring our shit. We just use someone else's and then maybe do a Fletcher and just fucking destroy it.
But yeah, I chased down a Fat Mike down Electro, so I'm all in.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
I'm all
this
in.
Fucking guy. Can you get the stickers?
The bad cop sticker. Yeah, I got one at the show. They were handing them out at when they played. Because
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, were they good? You probably heard them.
Very good. Very good, actually. They're coming to Australia as well.
Outside a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, I can get the stickers. I can even wear a dress. No problem.
That's what I'm
Excellent.
talking about.
I wasn't concerned. I thought I sort of assumed that part in combat boots.
Fair assumption.
Right. So back to error.
Error. So yeah, error traps. The thing with error traps, and Dave, your point about like, I think sometimes they get treated a little bit more linear than I would like. They like sometimes it feels like people are trying to put them into a checklist, and like that's all we need to look for, and that
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake. Like,
yeah, and you got to find more next week than you found last week, right? So we meet the quotas. So look, if we're not looking for human error, really, then how do we know who to fire?
Ben.
yeah,
It's always me.
It's like the no.
it's easy.
You know
If
the
I'm not
Simpsons
there.
episode when it's like the no homers club. This is like the no Bens club. Like that's
It's probably good.
Yeah.
weed them out during selection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that does feel like I don't know if that's the intended point, but Dave said earlier it's sort of a value laden term. And I think even when you get into things like the the just culture algorithm you guys are probably familiar with, or there's flow charts and things like this, it's sort of pseudo scientific train of thinking that gets us to really the same thing. I mean, it maybe it's a useful thought exercise, and I think it is for some things, that sort of transparency of making sure you are looking at systemic things. But I think there's reason to be really careful even on things like that sort of say they're meant to get around that idea of human error as a blame function.
Yeah, I think we sort of through the start of this conversation, we sort of talked about maybe the language doesn't matter as much, like it's what happens. But I also think maybe the language does matter a lot, because of kind of like what conversation it invokes. So even like in the hop stuff, the whole idea that people make mistakes, error is normal. Like it just all puts everything on the individual, and mistake, error, they're all pretty shitty words, right? So yeah, I think maybe we should evolve our language, because none of it's helpful. Behavior, root cause, culture.
For me, to that point, I typically try not to like correct people because that's
well, I think we know that's not true.
But like, well, actually, no.
Ron-splaining
about
is
correcting
actually a thing, yeah.
But like, I to your point, Dave, like I tend to agree. Like, I don't find those terms very helpful, and so I try to avoid using them when I can. But I don't think it's always possible, because sometimes people just know, hey, like to your point earlier, Ben, like you just go along and say, hey, actually, I don't think human error exists, which I personally don't. I don't think human error is a thing. I think it's just a construct that we use. But like, if you say that, you sound like a fucking lunatic.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, I think we do need to be mindful, and to me, like in terms of like changing the conversation, I think it is helpful to say that, like, okay, if we decide to use that term, like we said earlier, this is the beginning. Okay, let's understand that error. Let's dive deeper. Let's understand the context.
And I think that's going back to Ben's saying about don't be fucking lazy.
It's mine now.
That's your thing.
Cool.
But there's
a shirt, right, by the way. On the merch store, there's a shirt. If you need a shirt that says "Don't be fucking lazy," it's on the store.
Yeah, it's cool.
Not you, Dave, but
Punk Rock Safety
our 6 remaining listeners. punkrocksafetymerch.com. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, Dave.
But I mean, I think it's having the bigger conversation, because maybe it's unhelpful, Ron, to go human error is not a thing. Maybe it's more helpful to go, well, let's just actually talk about human error, right? Let's talk about the variability of work. Let's talk about complex systems and the observability issues with complex systems. Let's talk about people assessing situations differently to, how we might think that they assess situations. And then if you can have a broad enough and an intelligent enough conversation about the situation that you put your people in every day, then you can actually assume the responsibility to try to make that system operate a bit more effectively for the people that you throw in the middle of it, right?
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense, because I think if we can be more precise a little bit, or more specific, probably is a better way of saying it, like, hey, okay, because a lot of times people are like, oh, it was a human error, that's what happened. Okay, well, let's describe it. Like, tell me what you mean, like what happened. Like, I think then
the guy fucked up. That's what happened.
Yeah,
thing that
threw a can of foam. But it is sort of it's sort of helping people gain the vocabulary too, because I don't think there's all that many people that just go, I don't want to know anything more about this. Given an opportunity to sort of think about it, as Dave said, because 20, 30 years ago, there's a really small audience of people that were talking about complex systems and adaptation and these sorts of things, right? That's much more common. You go, down to Global Safety Innovation Summit. Ron didn't go, but like if you had gone, people in that audience are talking about that stuff all the time. So I do think some of this is just, it's giving people the opportunity to name some of those things.
Yeah, is it? I think so. I've had two.
They could hardly wait to tell me how stupid this was.
Yeah, well, I've had two conversations recently with CEOs of reasonably large companies.
That's what a tier 2 guy would do.
No. They call me in when they want advice, about their job and life and and stuff. But the quote,
and you're all like, "Hey, Bezos, man, calm the fuck down, bro."
Yeah.
Well, and no, but the actual problem statement for both of them is like verbatim quote is people keep doing stupid shit. And like this is like a CEO, and I've heard this twice in the last few weeks from CEOs. Can you help me because people keep doing stupid shit? And I've just got to stop. I need people to stop doing stupid shit, right? And I'm not working with either of them because I felt the need to educate them about the way that they see the world. And
How'd that go?
Well,
I'll tell you what Dave doesn't do is educate people.
Yeah. It's like, fuck that shit.
I'll give you three guesses what the problem is in your organization, and then it's
you, bitch, get the fuck out.
But it's a bit like that idea of that's even worse than human error. It's almost like saying that people are just fuck ups, right? Like So I think
that's the care more, pay more attention.
Yeah, so the conversation might be a little bit bigger in the circles that we move in, but I think at a broader industry level, I'm not sure the conversations move much at all.
Well, the thing that's always interesting though is that those statements, and I'm reflecting because I've heard similar talking to people this week in my work too, not CEOs. Like
Ron had his annual review.
Like
work.
But like you hear like, you're fired. This is why I'm in Mexico.
Hands up if you've got a job. Ron, not so fast. Not so fast.
But like you hear like, oh yeah, we do what we can, but there's always the human factor, or we can't. But like these statements, they feel like they are almost like an excuse to like, I don't have to do anymore, or I can't do anymore. They're very disempowering to the people who are saying them. They're like, I'm helpless here.
Yeah.
It's all those other people that need to solve this problem. I can't do anything, which is always striking to me because almost always, like in your case, Dave, the people who are saying it actually have quite a lot of power in the organizations that they're talking about.
Yeah. And I said this, I was since we're talking CEOs, I was helping an executive team. That's kind of what I tend to do now at the top end of town.
Yeah.
Like
fucking guy.
These tier twos are tough.
They'll invite me to ring that bell on Wall Street soon. So And so, but one of the things I sort of said, like one of these, like, because I don't find these 5 commandments of hop and all that sort of stuff incredibly useful. But one of the things that I tried to help with this senior leadership team who do like to project the problem on, further down the organization. Like, we're good, we're committed, we're doing what we need to do. It's the other people closer to the front of the organization that are that need to try harder. And sort of had this thing that, can we just agree that every single decision and action that happens inside this organization is at least 51% on us and 49% on the person or the local leader or something. We shape all of the direction and the resource allocation and the work design and the selection of equipment and contractors, and all the way down to just selecting the person and training the person and putting them to work. So if we can assume as a leadership group that we carry 51% or more of the influence over every decision and action, then it kind of makes it incumbent on the leadership to fucking, whenever an error happens in the organization, it's like, oh, that's on us. So there you go. Maybe that's who you fire, Ben. Maybe you go every time someone makes a mistake, find a senior manager and go, hey, you're out.
Make an example of them. And if they'd cared more, I'll tell you what, wouldn't have happened.
But is that thing about yeah. Go, Ron.
Well, but like, to me, I think all of this leads to an important part of the conversation that we haven't really touched on yet, but I think you hinted at earlier, Dave, that like one of the other challenges with error is we think that it's something we have to eliminate, like, and tackle. Like, okay, well, you can't deal with the human factor, or you have to, get people to care more, or so they don't make errors. But like, there are times when there's just shit we can't control. Like, there's just going to be stuff we can't
Ron is now disempowering.
Ron is like
disempowering. But like,
this is Charles. I feel like I'm listening to Charles Perrault.
Exactly. There was, I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers about this, and like, about like foreman doing pre-job meetings. He's a friend. You don't know him. He lives in
Ron
Canada.
loves a good pre-job meeting.
Yeah, no, I don't talk to TS7s.
But like, so like foremen doing pre-jobs, and like there's some of them who do really good like pre-job briefings for their crews, and there's some of them who do crappy ones. And how do you get them to all be good? And it's like, well, you probably just can't. Like, it's just because we don't have the ability to control all those variables that are there. So what we have to do is say, okay, when a foreman has a bad pre-job briefing, how do we make it so we don't kill anybody? Like, at the end of the day, like, people are going to be people, and systems are going to be, back to your point earlier, Dave, like, systems are going to be so complex that like we might be able to list a shit ton of error traps, but we'll never get them all because we have no conception of what they all are. So how are we going to make it so that we can, tolerate some of that and be able to identify it and respond to it quickly?
Yeah, well, I think
so. This is the squishy part for Ron, right? That sort of mediating squish between intention. If we go back to the oversimplified, right? What I hope happens, and then the actual shit that happens, and the squish in the middle, like a warm Oreo, if you will.
Let's get squishy.
Donkey show again. What's the warm Oreo? Anyway,
there's got to be coverability after that.
But I think if you want a solution to that, Ron, I think just make sure at the end of the pre-job brief you just say, everyone, and Ben's on site today doing his audit, so don't get caught out. Because
don't be stupid. Don't
sign the form, then that solves it.
I think we're at the point of the podcast where we're going to start repeating the odd story. So I probably said this, but no one listens to every episode anyway. But I'd spent half an hour with a leader talking about some work we were doing on site, and I'm like, we really want to understand normal work. It's really casual and informal. We just want to immerse ourselves with the team. And I'm making a coffee in like the tea room, and I listen to this leader, talking to, one of the operational leaders. Goes, "Oh, remember, we got this fucking audit on site. Make sure all the guys are doing things exactly how they should be doing things." And so maybe, Ron, to your point from a pre-start is, something like that might make people, pay a bit more attention, care a bit more. So use that until people get desensitized to Ben being on site every day with his clipboard.
You know what I was thinking about though? Well, you don't know what I was thinking about. It's a vacuum in space most of the time, but we really almost always talk about error at this point of sort of frontline work, but there's error everywhere all the fucking time. And the executives are, they're talking about these people keep doing the same stupid shit. And my question is usually, and maybe this is why work is more of a hobby for me, is my question is then why do you keep hiring all the stupid people, which in itself feels like an error, right? If you can't hire better, like you've mastered hiring stupid people, I don't know, man, care more, try harder, quit fucking more.
And it's interesting that we talked earlier about what it leads to, and that about this idea of error. And it's always interesting when you talk to an organization, they've got one of the just culture frameworks, right? Where they try to, we talked Jim Reason's culpability, right? Like, was it a reckless, was it a, willful violation, or was it a, honest mistake or something? And they say, we've got this just culture and we apply it across our organization, not just safety. I'm like, yeah, show us these case examples from the last 3 or 4 years, and it's all safety. And then you go, oh, so no one else makes any mistakes other than safety mistakes in the business. Like, yeah, well, the payroll dude last month pressed the wrong button and didn't pay people. Oh, interesting. And what did you do there? Oh, we just said, don't. Oh, that was a bit of a mistake. Don't worry about it. But in safety, we've got this real kind of like moral sense of justice that I don't think that sense of justice applies to any other type of mistake other than like a safety mistake in the business. Or maybe it's something that's actually criminal, like, well, you stole shit, so time to leave, right? Or no,
but we have a framework we'd like to follow here.
You did actually.
Exactly. We're gonna do the substitution test on the.
You did harass that donkey in front of your team, and that was not appropriate. So,
unless you work for the donkey show, in which case
it's core business, right? It's core
business built in.
That's BAU, guys.
On that note,
did we solve it?
Oh fuck! I don't know. I say that all the time, and
yeah. Well, since you've stolen my fucking lazy quote, I'm coming for all yours.
I'm not sure we've solved anything on any of these podcasts, but maybe we've at least made progress on understanding donkey shows, sort of first and foremost, and maybe sort of what error actually is, or what it looks like in the wild, and what happens between sort of how we act and how outcomes develop and hindsight in there. And I'm sure I forgot all the smart stuff, but squishy. Let's see.
Let's get squishy.
Yeah. I feel better about it.
You feel that's.
I mean, I'll tell you, we didn't fuck anything up on this, which I'm pleased to say there were no errors in the making of this podcast today. Couldn't have.
Although there's probably some listeners who are like, okay, listening was a fucking error.
Do it more than once, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you can kind of build a career off, like I heard they suck live. So, like being bad, you can, isn't necessarily bad.
This is fair.
That's right. Lovable idiots. All right.
Tolerable idiots. All right. I'm going to go.
Sure.
Punk Rock Safety merch. I'm going to go and put a new sticker on my base.
Hell
yes.
Yeah. All right. Does this mean we got to start writing songs?
Fuck, man. Like I've shown so much commitment to this podcast. I've gone out and tracked down a new guitar, and I'm committed to learning a new instrument for you boys. So I think you're on songwriting.
I bought 47 skateboards. I don't know if that's important.
I've done. I showed up.
I mean, Ron showed up 10 minutes late.
with a pixelated
The timing
background.
he selected.
It's like Ron's just the guy that goes, how can I do the fucking absolute bare minimum to not be kicked out of this donkey show?
Well, I
It was
mean,
built. It was
I
built
can
for a
answer
punk
that
band.
question if you want. But
But I'd rather demonstrate it to you.
Oh
fellas.
shit! That's where the video is, boys.
I've got this other. Anyway,
That's your reminder to look at the YouTube to see. Ron's got some evidence here he'd like to show you.
All right,
I think that's it, boys.
Ron's got a hard stop.
All right, boys.
We're out. Episode 18 in the can.